Right now, this was the summary of the last week class. First, we learned the location of the heart inside the thorax. So, front side, it is covered by this the sternum, the middle bone, and then ribs, and the backside backbone, and the space created inside the thoracic cavity is called mediastinum. So mediastinum space is used to locate the heart. So it is located in between the lungs, and it is enclosed in a membrane called pericardium. And below is the diaphragm. And then we also learn the layers of the heart. The internally, inside of the heart, there is a single cell layer called endothelium. And the blue color cells shows the single cell layer. And then a thick muscle layer called myocardium make the heart. So endocardium and myocardium make the heart, and it is enclosed in this protective cavity called pericardium. So pericardium again divided into two, which is attached to the myocardium is called serous pericardium, and again myocardium's the pericardium split into two. Inside the myocardium, one attached to myocardium is serous pericardium, and the outside one, the harder one, is fibrous pericardium. There is a gap in between. This is called pericardial cavity, filled with the fluid. So this is important for the protection of the heart, reduce frictions of the heart when it's contracting, and it has again a little bit of space in the cavity to enlarge, they get the contract and relax. Then we learn the basic parts of the heart, how to draw a heart first, how to draw a heart, and then showing all these structures as you have to remember these structures. So you have to practice, take a paper and try to draw a heart many times until you can draw a uh, beautiful heart like this, and then you can label all, and you should know all structures of the heart. And then we learn some of the important parts of the heart. For example, this fibrous attachment called chordae tendineae. And then it is important for the functioning of the valves. And we also learn what is the function of coronary circulation, coronary artery. And we also learn the conducting system. So this conducting system include SA node, AV node, bundle of His, and Furkine fibers. There is a one going to the atrium, but we don't. This word is not used in your textbooks, like resource books. That's called Bachmann's bundle. That's not much important, but bundle of His, Furkine fibers are important. So SA node, AV node, bundle of His, and Purkinje fiber. Okay, in between there is a fibrous ring which prevent direct connection between atrium and ventricle. So there is no connection between atrium and ventricle through muscles. The connection is only through this bundle of His, AV node to bundle of His. Right, today we're going to learn a cardiac cycle. So under cardiac cycle, we're going to learn what are the events take place between heartbeats. So we know this term heartbeat, it contract and relax. And what is the events take place between one contraction and one relaxation? So cardiac cycle is duration between one contraction of the heart and one relaxation. It's simply the heartbeat. Okay. Now this word contraction and this word relaxation. These two words we are not using when we're talking about the heart. So these two words are replaced with systole and diastole. So relaxation is diastole, systole is a contraction. So then we can say a duration between one systole of the heart and one relaxation. So then events take place between one systole and one diastole is called cardiac cycle. So we're going to learn what are the events take place between one systole and one diastole. Now, when we are relaxing, meaning that we are not doing any physical activities except the basic things like learning, speaking, that's called relax. Relax stage, duration of one cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. At relax, duration of one cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. So we can calculate the heart rate now. So heart rate, usually we express how many beats per minute. When we know duration of cardiac cycle, we can calculate the heart rate. So let's see like this, 0.8 second, one beat. In 1 second, 1 divided by 0.8. In 60 seconds, 1 divided by 0.8 into 60. So this gives 65 beats per minute. So this is the normal heart rate of a person when person is relaxing. So 75 beats per minute when someone is relaxing. So 0.8 second is the duration of one cardiac cycle if a person is relaxing. Okay. Then what is the purpose of this cardiac cycle? The purpose of cardiac cycle is pumping blood out of the heart at each cardiac cycle, right? So if I write the same thing again here, pumping the blood out of the heart at each cardiac cycle. Now, when we specify this, pumping the blood out of the heart at each cardiac cycle from left ventricle. So we know the heart is like this, and the left ventricle is this one, and this is the right ventricle. So if you only consider left ventricle, and the blood is going through aorta to all over the body, and the blood is oxygenated. So this filled with oxygenated blood, and the blood is leaving from the aorta. We should not also forget right ventricle also pump, and the blood is going to the lungs. But when we consider only the left ventricle part, pumping the blood out of the heart at each cardiac cycle from left ventricle is called a stroke volume. This is called a stroke volume. Pumping the blood out of the heart at each cardiac cycle from left ventricle is called stroke volume. If we want to find what is the total amount of blood pump from the heart each minute, so this is the stroke volume multiplied by heart rate. So stroke volume is volume of blood pumped out at each cardiac cycle. Then the heart rate is number of cardiac cycle per minute, right? So if I write again, same thing here, you can understand heart rate is number of cardiac cycles per minute. Stroke volume is the volume of blood pumped from left ventricle at each cardiac cycle. Then we can calculate the total volume, right? So total volume is called cardiac output. So cardiac output is volume of blood pumped from the left ventricle per minute. So volume of blood pumped out per minute. So we can calculate if we know the heart rate and if you know the standard stroke volume of a human, then we can calculate the cardiac output. Because you know the volume inside the left ventricle, we cannot change much because average person, the heart size is same for every person's. If you take adults, the size of the heart is same, more or less same, and the volume of the left ventricle is not huge in one person and small in one person. We don't see like this. Volume of a human inside the left ventricle is quite same. Then how we can pump more blood when we are doing exercise so we can increase heart rate? For example, let's say person at a rest, the 50 ml, the stroke volume, and heart rate is let's take 80 just for the calculations. So it could be 4,000 milliliter. And the same person now doing exercise, so heart rate goes to 150. Heart rate increased to 150 or 160. then this is a 8,000 milliliter. So we can increase the output by changing the heart rate. That's why when we are doing exercise, physical activity, our heart rate is changing. So heart rate changing means duration of cardiac cycle decreasing. So here is the relaxing person, duration of cardiac cycle 0.8 seconds. Okay, so these are the basic information we should know before we go into the cardiac cycle. So just to summarize again, what is cardiac cycle? It is event between one contraction and one relaxation. The contraction is called systole, relaxation is called diastole. So we use these two terms now when we're talking about the cardiac cycle. At rest, it is 0.8 second. Cardiac cycle duration is 0.8 second. Then 75 beats per minute is the normal heart rate. So we can calculate the cardiac output if we know stroke volume and heart rate. Okay, now we can go to step by step to learn the cardiac cycle. So do you have any question about this information? Okay, if you don't have, we can now start. What are the stages of cardiac cycle? So when you're talking about the cycle, if we start from one point, then we come back again to the same point. For example, you can remember we learn about the cell cycle. So when you're learning the cell cycle, we divide it into G1 phase, S, G2, M, and cytokinesis. So we started from here. So we started from the G1 phase and then ended up at this cytokinesis when you're talking about the mitosis. But theoretically, we can start from any stage. For example, if the same cell cycle, what if we start from S phase? So if I want to start from S phase, then I say S phase, DNA synthesis take place, DNA replicate. Then G2 stage, organelle growth and cell growth start. Then cell divide, nuclear divide by mitosis, cytoplasm divide by cytokinesis, and the two cells form. Then again cell undergoing G1 stage, S like this. So we can start from any point, but we have a little bit of comfortable if we start something that we can easily understand. That's why we start from G1 stage. So G1 is a start. So now we have a cardiac cycle. So cardiac cycle is again similar thing. It is starting from one point and ending again and repeating again like this. So just for the understanding, we start from one stage like this. So we divide into 3. This is the cardiac cycle. So we can divide into 3. So now we give names to the 3 stages. So now you can remember the duration is 0.8 seconds. So we give first the duration, then you can understand easily. So this one take only 0.1 second. This stage 0.3 second. This stage 0.4 second. Okay, now if you add all durations, 3 durations, 0.1 plus, 0.3 plus, 0.4 plus, you get 0.8. Then we're going to give names to the stages. For the first one, atrial systole. So we give a name, atrial systole. The second one, ventricular systole. At 0.4 second, one we can call diastole. Now we divide cardiac cycle into 3 stages: atrial systole, ventricular systole, diastole. So if you want to start from here, so atrial systole, and it goes to the ventricular systole, then ventricular systole, it goes to diastole. And again after diastole, starting ventricular atrial systole. The cycle is repeating. So we're going to learn cardiac cycle under these 3 stages: atrial systole, ventricular systole, and diastole. So if you have a difficulty understanding, you can ask, some of the lessons, like previous lesson, they have this, they have a gills, they have a respiratory systems. I mean, nothing much to think. We have to only remember they have this and they have that. But when the processes come, we need a little bit more understanding than just remembering, right? Okay, so we start from atrial systole then. Atrial systole. Right. Before that, diastole is a relaxation stage. So during relaxation, here blood filled. So we can understand these basic things. Diastole is the relaxing of the heart. It is not contracting. That time used to fill the blood. Atrial systole is a contraction of the atrium. Ventricular systole is contraction of ventricle. Okay, now you try to understand during diastole, blood is filling to the heart. And after that, atrial contract. And after that, ventricle contract. So remember, if we look size of the atrium and size of the ventricle, this is the ventricle and atrium, this is the ventricles. This is the AV valve and this is the semilunar valve. Now by looking at this picture, we can say volume of the ventricle is bigger than atrium. So if we try to understand this way, okay, now during diastole, blood is filling. Blood is filling. Where does blood go then? Where is blood going during the filling? So if you try to learn, okay, now first blood fill to the atrium. Then it goes to the ventricle. So then you can make another question here. Okay, first atrium filled, then atrial contract, then it goes to the ventricles, then ventricle contract, then it goes to the all over the body. So we can also make that kind of a judgment. Okay, first atrium filled, then the atrium contract, then ventricle filled, ventricle contract. Now this is not happening exactly like that. It is not happening exactly like that. So we'll see what is now exactly happening. Okay, let's start from this, right? So now I close this one. This valve is AV valve. AV closed. When the AV valve is closed, there's no connection between atrium and ventricle. There's no flow between atrium and ventricle. Then what is happening at the atrium? What is happening at the ventricles? Okay, now I think to understand it, we should not hurry up to understand. It takes time to understand. We go by step, right? We go back to the one of the last lesson we did, this one. Now this is happening, cardiac cycle is happening because of these electrical impulses. So these electrical impulses first generate at SA node. The first place is the SA node. When the electrical impulses generate at SA node, you can see in this picture, it is spread all over the atrium. First, spread all over the atrium. And I clearly mentioned, because of this non-conducting fibrous ring, it is not going to the ventricle. So SA node send first impulses to atrium only. Then first contract atrium. Atrium is the first place to contract. After that, you can see the impulses are coming to the atrioventricular node, AV node. Why? Now, you can also think why the system is like this. So why atrium and ventricles at same time, electrical impulses spread at the same time, it's easy. But this is not happening because blood is first filled to the atrium. If both contract at the same time, then it doesn't work. So first atrium should contract, then ventricle contract. So this is the reason for our original lessons. First, atrium contract because of the signal spread all over the atrium muscles. Then it goes to the AV node, right? So this is the SA node, and this is the AV node. Then what is actually happening at AV node? AV node delay the signal. AV node delay the signal pass into the ventricles. That means let first atrium contract and finish the job, and the impulses is going to the ventricle. Then ventricle contract. Now we can also understand this conduction system is like this. First, it is important when atrium contract. So first place is the impulses going to the atrium. Then after that, small delay, it is going to the ventricles. Right? So then we start filling the atrium. So now I just fill with the blood, fill the atrium. Now you must be wondering what is happening at the ventricle now. Ventricle is doing some other job. So then that's why it is closed here, because that time ventricle is contracting. So that's important point now to understand. From here, atrium filled, right? So I just write here, atrium filled with the blood. Okay, I just want to make another remark. I take only one side for explaining purpose. But everything is happening same time at both places. That means left and right side, things are happening at the same time. So I can write both atrium filled, both AV valve closed. So I just write here both at the same time. Then I avoid the complication, telling the both side like this, right? Atrium filled with the blood. So what happened to the AV valve? AV valve closed. AV valve is closed. Then atrium systole takes place. Now, filled with the blood, that time atria is relaxing. So that time atria is relaxing. Now, once it completely filled with the blood, atrium systole takes place. So when atrial systole take place, what is exactly happening? They start to contract. These walls start to contract. So when atrium walls start to contract, pressure increase, right? When the pressure increase, pressure increases in the atrium. As a result, this AV valve is opened. This AV valve is opened, right? So I am taking a next one to draw it again. Atrium, ventricles. Now the AV valve is open.